Ooh, that's bright. Add some side light to my face. Make it look good. Boom. Without, with, that. First kind of legit tutorial. Let's see how this goes. So, I had a photo recently go viral. And I had so many people dropping in my DMs, yo, how'd you take this photo? This looks so cool, like teach me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my opportunity. I could share some knowledge with people. This is the 5 rules on how to take 24 karat pure gold. You should know what that means by now if you watched my first video, astrophotography. Cue that intro. All right, I have to come clean about something. I haven't had a photo go viral. And really, it was only one of my friends that asked me how to take this astro photo, this one to be exact. And her name's Hannah. So Hannah, this tutorial is literally for you, but it's really for anyone who actually wants to learn astrophotography. So let's dive in. Rule 1 is you're gonna need a tripod. You can get a carbon one, you can get a heavy duty beefy one. If you have a tripod already, that's gonna work. I built an entire kit down below that shows you a camera, SD card, tripod, all the gear you're gonna need to do basic astrophotography below. So if you don't have something, you can go down there, check it out. If you see that you're missing something, you can use my affiliate link and, you know, support your local videographer. Number 2 is using the right lens. The primary rule for astrophotography is the rule of 500. The rule of 500 is the rule that tells you how long you can leave your shutter open until you'll start seeing star trails. Star trails is this. No star trails, star trails. No star trails, star trails. So, since the world's constantly moving and space is constantly moving and everything is moving constantly. Basically, you take 500. Let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna try. There's nothing actually there, so I'm trying to guess where I'm gonna put it in post. I'm just gonna be looking up here for this part, guys. So I'm sorry I'm not making eye contact, but I'm just gonna cheat. Okay, so you take 500 divided by your focal length, which will equal a number that tells you how long you can leave your shutter speed open. So if we take 500, let's say 16 millimeter, because that's kind of my ideal lens for taking astrophotography is 16 mil. So if you take 16 and divide it by 500, you'll get roughly 30-ish seconds that you can leave your shutter speed open until you're gonna start seeing focal length. If you have a 35, a 50, you'll do the exact same thing. 500 divided by 35, which will equal about 14, and 500 divided by 50, which will equal roughly 10. This is for a full frame camera. So if you have full frame, you're gonna follow this rule. If you have like an APS-C or a crop sensor, you're gonna have to do one more additional step before you divide by 500. That additional step is timesing your crop factor. So let's say you have a crop factor of 1.6. You're gonna take 1.6, let's do this again. I'm gonna look back up here. 1.6, you're gonna times that by 35, and that's gonna equal your new focal length, which is about 56 millimeters. Then you're gonna do 500 divided by 56, which is about 8 seconds. So if you do have a crop sensor, you do need to put that in the factor, because I don't want any of you that actually watch this video to be like,
yo Nick, you said 35 millimeters can be open till 14, and I'm now stuck with star trails because I left it open for 14 seconds.
Well, I just told you that you had a crop sensor, so please be nice to me. All right, number 1, tripod. 2, rule of 500. 3, your other camera settings. You're gonna want your aperture as wide as possible. Most of my lenses go down to 2.8, so I'll open them up to 2.8. If your lens only goes to f4, bring it down to f4. And then you're gonna have to mess with your ISO because it's still gonna be pretty dark. You don't want your ISO to be as high as possible because you're gonna have a lot of noise. This is noise. Oh, those little specks right there, those aren't extra stars. Those aren't magical stars that we can't see with our human eyes. That's noise. And you don't really want as much noise in your shot. You're gonna have noise no matter what because you're shooting in dark light. Unless you're shooting mirrorless. I don't have mirrorless, so I'm gonna stop there before I try acting like I know anything about mirrorless. but you're gonna want to shoot somewhere kind of in the middle if possible. Play around with it. That's what's fun about astrophotography, is you get to play around a lot. It's a slow process, so don't shoot ISO as high as your ISO allows you. You don't want to do that. Let's recap. You're gonna use the rule of 500 to find out what your shutter speed with your focal length can be. So if you have a 35 and you're on a full frame, 14 seconds. If you have a 35 with a crop sensor, about 8 seconds. Then you're gonna want to drop your aperture to as low as it can possibly go. So if you can do 2.8, we'll do 2.8. Your ISO, we're gonna try keeping somewhere in the middle. Again, play with this when you're taking your photos. Stars move very slow, the world moves very slow, so it's not like your subject's gonna get out of frame really quick. Number 4 is adjusting your focus. What you're gonna wanna do is bring your focus all the way out and then bring it slightly back. And even with your wide aperture, your depth of field, because of your shutter speed, so much light's gonna be coming into that information that a lot of your stuff in your landscape is still gonna be in focus, even though you're shooting at like an f2.8. So you'll still have your stars and you'll still have a lot of your landscape, if you're using a landscape at all, in your shot still being focused. Tip number 5 is using a remote trigger or a interval timer. Because you're leaving your shutter speed open for such a long time, shaking your camera is gonna ruin your shot. So try not moving at all once you pull the trigger, because it's gonna add camera shake and your image is gonna become a little bit blurry. Another thing you can use is a remote trigger. You can buy one for like 10 bucks on Amazon. It's just this little thing that pairs with the camera. And you just push the button. Instead of pushing the button on your camera, you're pushing the button away from your camera. So that shake of you tapping your camera at all is removed. You can also put it on an interval timer. I'll show you guys in the settings. If you go here, if you have a Canon, it gives you the ability to just take multiple photos over and over again, which could make you a time lapse, night time lapse if you really want to. That way you're just removing a factor that can cause motion blur. So don't walk around too much or at all once you open up your shutter, and try seeing if you can do something that doesn't involve you having to touch your camera to open the shutter or to start taking the photo. Pause real quick. This is future Nick, who's now, I guess, present Nick, talking about something that past Nick forgot to mention. It's pretty interstellar kind of stuff we just did right there. The most basic thing you can also do is go into your drive mode on your camera and select the self timer. And you can select like 10 seconds or 2 seconds, just so that gives you enough time to hit the trigger on your camera and walk away without causing any camera shake. Continue past Nick. And tip number 6, because you guys stuck around this long, is there is a Milky Way season. It's not out 24/7. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere like me, Milky Way is visible at night between March and October. The best is between late April and late July. That's kind of when you're gonna see the galactic core. Man, that sounded pretty cool. Also with the Milky Way, you guys can use Google Earth to kind of get an idea to frame up your shot, because you can adjust the time of year and everything and go from day to night. So use Google Earth to help you frame up your shot before you go, and to know kind of when the best time to go is, before the Milky Way sets past the horizon line. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks, Hannah, for asking that question. That really was the whole reason why I actually made this tutorial. I hope you got a lot out of this. I hope everyone that wants to learn astrophotography got a lot out of this. I put, like I said, a kit together that you guys can look at. If you're missing any items, you can just purchase them straight through there. If you have any questions about astrophotography, put them in the comments below. I'm more than happy to ask anything else you guys might have issues with. Yeah, till next time. Man, if I could tell my 5th grade tutor that thought I'd be a failure that I'm actually teaching people. Rub it in her face. Oh man. Not bitter.